This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Today is Wednesday, the 9th of April, 2025. We're so glad you could join us here today. Coming up later on in the show, we'll talk with Corey Bratland of agmarket.net to find out what happened in these markets today. But first, we're going to talk with the folks at Bayer, specifically Frank Ritteman, about their new Vyconic Soybeans, which now allows 5 different modes of action when treating weeds and having weed control. It's set to come out in 2027. We caught up with Ritteman at Commodity Classic to find out more about Vyconic soybeans. Talking with Frank Ritteman, North American Soybean Project Manager and Launch Lead. We're talking today about the new Vyconic soybeans. Frank, if you want to tell our customers or our listeners here and viewers here, what is going to be standing out about Vyconic that they're really going to like?
Thank you, Dustin. Great question. I was incredibly excited about launching the brand name for Vyconic soybeans. It's been in the making for a long time, often referred to as HT4 soybean internally. Finally been able to give it a true brand name with the Vyconic soybeans. And what really is the exciting part about it, technically, it will be the first soybean, or it is the first soybean that combines 5 different herbicide tolerances all in one bean. So growers today, depending on which platform they choose, have access to 3 different herbicide tolerances. We're moving up not just 1, we're moving up 2 notches, but moving all the way straight from 3 to 5. Within our own XtendFlex platform, we're adding 2,4-D and mesotrione tolerance to it. And that'll give the growers 4 times more options than they have today of different chemistries they can combine to control weeds that are becoming an ever bigger problem.
So obviously when we talk about those weeds, when we find one that, when it comes to changing platforms, oftentimes you were having to change seeds on top of it. This takes that away and makes it a lot more convenient and probably less nerve-wracking for them.
It really takes the question of platform that has been a little bit, has been more on the forefront in recent years, a little bit out of the equation, and allows the grower to focus on what yields, what's the bean that I really want to grow. Because Vyconic soybeans will feature all the different herbicide tolerances that are available today. Today, growers between the platforms have a choice, or are making choices. Vyconic soybeans, by bringing 2,4-D into the fold, really sets it on a level playing field with what's available to the marketplace. And by bringing mesotrione tolerance on top of that, we're also adding a completely new and unique element to soybean growers, which I've worked in the corn space in previous years before and know what the value that HPPDs in general, mesotrione in particular, can bring to corn growers. It's the same weed, the same piece of dirt that we're trying to control. It'll bring incredible value to soybean growers.
All right, and of course yield is the next big thing. I mean, obviously you got all that tolerance to different herbicide platforms and stuff, but yield is where it's all going to be at, and that's what the farmers are going to be looking for. What kind of results are you seeing there?
So yeah, absolutely. I mean, yield has always been the number one decision-making criteria for growers, and in recent years there's been a little bit of a competition with the platform. This will allow now yield to be number one again. The breeding platform, or the breeding pipeline that we have within Bayer, we're putting a lot of effort into Vyconic soybeans. We have a broad class of products coming through. We actually have about 250 products this year that we're testing that could be available for commercial deployment for the market for 2027 introduction, covering all the way from 000s to Group 7s. So product choice will not be a limiting factor. The performance with those 250 products is already there. It's great that what we're seeing. We are already at the level of commercial checks or beating them by a bushel to 2, which is also not necessarily something that growers have come to experience in recent transitions. So the yield is there, the choice will be there. It'll come down to the regulatory timeline shaping up to allow to define the size of the 2027 market introduction.
All right, and you were talking about that. Use a few more dots to I's a dot and T's to cross before it's ready to go in 27.
Yeah, absolutely. In the regulatory world, with our Vyconic launch team, that's kind of what keeps us busy every single month as a review. It's a complicated world. I'll try to make it as simple as possible here, but there's a couple of nuances. With the Vyconic soybeans, we actually have 4 of the tolerances combined in one single event, which is new to the world. So we need global approval for that, and we're pursuing that. And then it is being combined with the Roundup Ready to Yield event, the form is stacked, that partially needs separate reviews. As we are standing here today, we have approval in the US, in Canada, we're almost fully there in Brazil, so the key cultivation countries are looking really good, and now our focus has shifted towards the import approvals across the global import markets, and we've made good progress there and are working to enable them for 2027 market introduction. The additional caveat, we also need the chemistries to go along with. Herbicide tolerant soybean still by itself still hasn't controlled a weed. You need the 5 different chemistries that we have enabled also to have commercial labels available.
Okay.
Within the US, 2 of the 5 today have labels, like glyphosate-based products, like Roundup Parmex 3, glufosinate-based products. For the remaining 3, 2,4-D, mesotron, and dicamba, we're pursuing labels and are on track towards having them enabled for 2027.
All right, so if farmers want to learn more about Vyconic soybeans, where do they go?
Well, first and foremost, here at Commodity Classic the next couple of days, but then also work with their local FSR, work with their local advisor. We have plots out in the country today that feature Vyconic soybeans. They're all Bayer managed. They're not yet externally available. We're looking to see how we can do that in years to come. But work with their local Bayer representative and with their local advisor and see where they can get more information.
All right, well, Frank, thanks so much for taking time to visit with us today.
Thank you, Dustin. Pleasure.
That again was Frank Ritteman of Bayer. We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. And when we come back, we'll look at the closing markets. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. We're at the end of another trading day here on Ag Matters PM, and time to talk with Corey Bratland of agmarket.net. And Corey, boy, it's been an interesting day. I saw some up and down movement, got a few tariff announcements right here on the close. What are we looking at right now?
Well, overall, markets ended up very strong here on the day. Here, probably in about, I suppose around 12:30, quarter to 1 here, we had President Trump come out and raise the tariffs on China up to 125% from the 104 it was. Also, give the rest of the countries in the world, I think there's 70 or so plus, a pause on tariffs and put a limit on those reciprocal tariffs up to 10%. So a lot to kind of read in on this, but boy, the market really liked it. We saw grain prices, we saw livestock prices, we saw the equities all take a big jump on that, and going into the market or into the close here a lot stronger. So we're definitely going to see some volatility, and today is no stranger. Probably one of the most volatile days I've seen in quite some time.
And we've said this so many times before. We know that be it whatever it is with tariffs and what we need to do on the whole economy to get, a fair trading deal with anybody. Agriculture always seems to take it the worst because we're the first one retaliated against, or the easiest one to retaliate against. And a lot of ag groups have said, all the commodity groups, with the exception of cattle, have said that they want this to proceed cautiously and hopefully get it resolved as quickly as possible. It's really been tough for us, and especially when you're talking about razor thin margins of profit right now, especially if you're talking soybeans.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. I mean, that's the one area where we get hit the easiest is agriculture in the U.S. Okay, because a lot of the countries they buy a lot of commodities from the U.S. as their way to to balance the trade per se. Okay, and yeah, so when the market's a little sensitive to headlines, we're already dealing with razor thin, or in this case, losses on trying to raise soybeans this year, or staring down the road of losses. It does definitely get a little sensitive. Now, I mean, today's action, I think, definitely does bode well, establish a little confidence. I think, my takeaway of it is that, there's supposedly, 70 plus countries that are in talks or reaching out to the U.S. representatives across a big front that are looking to or wanting to make some type of deal. So I got to think, and that's just myself personally growing up on a family farm and still farming, that this could end up being pretty good for agriculture possibly down the road as they try to balance this trade. I got to think, agriculture and commodities might be a bright spot here, coming down the road if we can work out some deals with these other countries.
And of course, I know we focus a lot on corn and soybeans, especially, and we talk about these, but obviously cattle, hogs also watch that news very closely. And how did the livestock markets react? I know it was just before their close here at the end of the day. How did things go for them?
Very good. We had live cattle up about $4.5 kind of across the board. They've been kind of joined at the hip a little bit to the stock market. When the stock market started to roll over last week, cattle took a big hit. We've been seeing cash trade drift a little bit lower. Kind of hearing, packers are starting to get their margin back a little bit in line. They bought some cattle. They got a little comfort there. But overall, though, cattle had a nice response. If maybe we won't have this recession talk across across the world like we are. But regardless, I mean, live cattle are up $4.5. Feeder cattle were up, $5 plus, $6 on some months, and even hogs were up. Take away the April contract, which is going to be about done here shortly, but the rest of the months are all up anywhere from about $1.50 to $2.50 here today. So overall, it was just a buy commodity day here once that announcement, and even the equities, they shot up pretty strong, and that kind of helped lead the way.
All right. Well, if folks want to talk about some of the market situations, how that's going to bode for what they're thinking about, maybe some of their grain selling strategies, or where they're buying different options and all that, what's the best way for them to get in touch with agmarket.net?
Yeah, just the easiest way is just to head on over to our website, which is agmarket.net, and just click one of our links there, and you'll be able to access to get a hold of any of our brokers that we've got kind of across the Midwest here.
All right. Well, Corey, thanks so much for the insight, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay. That again was Corey Bratland of agmarket.net. Let's look at the closing numbers. Those are available on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network market screen online at iowaagnet.com. At the close, May corn was up a nickel at $4.74 even. Soybeans up 20 cents at $10.12 3/4. Soy meal up $3.50 at $2.94.50. Soy oil up $1.25 at $46.19. Chicago wheat up 2 1/4 at $5.42 1/4. Kansas wheat up 6 1/2 at $5.68 even. Minneapolis spring wheat up 7 3/4 at $6.08 3/4. Oats up 1/4 cent at $3.30 1/4. Live cattle are up $3.70 at $202.80. Feeders up $3.32 at $283.75. Lean hogs up $1.52 at $86.12. Pork cutouts unchanged at $93.65. Class 3 milk up a nickel at $17.20. And that's been a look at the closing markets, and that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com, as well as follow us on Facebook, X, and here on our YouTube channel. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified each time we put out new video projects. You can also find replays of our Iowa Ag Matters program, Ag Matters PM, and also our weekend Ag Matters program, as well as everything we produce at iowaagnet.com. The latest Pods of Potential program also being set to produce here very soon. From the IRN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Riley Smith, Andy Peterson, and Mark Magnuson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.